Hi there, Larry Hagan in Kodiak, Alaska, and today I'm actually out in Bell's Flats, which is a different part of Kodiak. See that mountain range back there? We live on kind of the other side of that. At a friend's house because I don't have a garage, and he doesn't either, but he's got a pole barn that he's letting me borrow. But today I thought I'd show you what I'm working on and give you a little bit of a hint on how we do stuff out here in the middle of nowhere. So this is part of Kodiak I haven't showed you guys before. It's called the Flats. Alaska standards are a little different for the HOA. You know, it's just kind of how it works. My buddy lives here in the house on the right. That house on the left is a guest house, guest cabin. And this big building over here, well, that's where we're doing our work. I suppose it's the kind of place you'd expect a Jeep to be. Kind of. All right, well, here's the old Gladiator. This is getting ready to go on the mainland in a couple days. We're taking the ferry across again. If you haven't seen the video on that, people seem to enjoy it. It's going over for some warranty work. See that? 2.5 years old. So here's the deal. About a 5-gallon gas tank, there's no gas in it. So that's disconcerting. When I looked at the bike originally, pulled the clutch handle back, nothing. And I'll try to put a picture up to show you that the slave cylinder, which is buried deep down here, leaked. So there's a very good chance that the .4 from that is in the crankcase. In addition, when we pulled the dipstick, which I'll do again, you can see the oil is too clean. Suspiciously clean. There, see that? It's too clean. When it's that clean, you got something to worry about. And the level was too high. That also indicates other junk is in there. Now, there isn't a whole lot of .4 brake fluid in the clutch system, so that alone wouldn't account for it. However, if you could smell it, then you'd understand these 5 gallons of gasoline, I don't know how full it was, but now it's empty. Down here, it's very suspicious. So there's a good chance the rest of the gasoline is in those cylinders, along with who knows what, because we know this sat for a very long time. What I'm going to do is I'm going to blow those out so that we don't get a bunch of junk in there. And because they're so tight, and I don't have petite little Japanese hands, I got big Scandinavian hands. I'm going to show you a little cheat that I do for that. This is the way they're numbered on the Valkyrie. 1, 3, and 5, 2, 4, and 6 on the other side. That's right, 6 cylinders total, 1,520 cc's, 6 carburetors, 5 speeds. If you want to sound cool, you could say it's a flat 6 like a Porsche. Realistically, it's probably a flat 6, more like a Subaru Outback, but whatever. It's a flat 6. Let's see, I think they call this an F6 or a GL 1500C. And GL is the same as a Goldwing because this engine is based on a Goldwing engine. But a lot of people confuse it and say it's the same, and it's definitely not. It's got the same twin belt drive in the front, but a Goldwing only has 2 carburetors or fuel injection, where this has 6. Plus the final drive on this is unique to this, and ironically, not as good as a Goldwing's. So it's really not a final drive to brag about. This has a bit more power than a Goldwing, and add more power with a weaker rear end. That's not great, and unfortunately, they're not interchangeable. You can see, it looks like it's got a black eye. That's just because I noticed there's a rubber gasket that goes back in here. I noticed over there, it looked kind of tacky, so I pulled it off, took a look, and sure enough, the gasket was completely dry rotted. We do know this bike sat for a really long time. We just don't know how long. And before I even try to start it, I've got the world's crappiest borescope. We're gonna pull those plugs, then we're gonna try to go down inside, see what the cylinders look like, see if that gasoline is in there, because if it is, trying to turn it over would break something, because that's called hydrolock. Because in the 4-stroke cycle, you have suck, squeeze, bang, blow. That's the easy way to remember it. Suck is where it brings air and fuel mixture in. Squeeze is where it compresses it. Bang is where the ignition is, and blow is where it goes out the exhaust. When the gasoline goes in there, it has to go in as a vapor. If it goes in as a liquid, that's when you call it flooded, because there's liquid gas and that'll actually like short out the spark plugs. If there's a significant amount of liquid in there, I'd say anything more than a tablespoon or 2, that's when things can go bad. So that's why we're gonna take it apart. We're gonna make sure there isn't liquid in there. If there is liquid in there, we're gonna deal with it. If there isn't liquid in there, well, then we're on to the next step, which I haven't really figured out what I'm gonna do yet. So let's go through the steps to get this thing cleaned up. Step 1, because I'm borrowing my buddy's, I don't know what you call this, pole barn? That's actually got a bunch of other motorcycles being worked on in here. I brought my Joe homeowner air compressor, which I actually really like because it's quiet, and just blow these out. Okay, step 2 is a little embarrassing. I have a lot of tools, but one thing I don't have is a metric 17mm spark plug wrench. Thank goodness this bike was well cared for, still had the toolkit. Yeah, we're using the attached toolkit to get the spark plugs broke loose. Now, if you're working on a motorcycle, I really hope you already know how to do this, but anyway, this is how these work. They're actually pretty decent. You just put it in this narrow hole like that, and you break them loose. And then I'm gonna go through and break them all loose, just like that. Okay, here's something that's not as embarrassing. If you have an old screwdriver, take an old screwdriver, and in this case I used 3/8, I think. No, yeah, 3/8 fuel line. Just cut off a hunk of fuel line and put it on there. And this works really well for getting spark plugs out of tight spots like this, especially if you got big, dumb Scandinavian hands like I do. Take an old screwdriver, and in this case I used 3/8, I think. No, yeah, 3/8 fuel line. Just cut off a hunk of fuel line and put it on there. And this works really well for getting spark plugs out of tight spots like this, especially if you got big, dumb Scandinavian hands like I do. See, and then rather than trying to reach my fingers in there, which I can touch it, but to get 2 fingers in there, forget it. But with this piece of hose, just shove it in there, give it a cut, work it out. And boom. How's that for easy? Now let's take a look at this spark plug. And that's what I thought. It's soaking wet. And remember, this motorcycle's been sitting for many, many years. Yeah, that's kind of to be expected, especially, the fuel was on. It's off now, but there's no fuel in it because it's probably all in the engine. But yeah, it doesn't look great. Looks like it was running okay. A little on the rich side. Got a little gunk on there, but not too bad. All right, so I'm gonna put these in order, and then we're gonna get back at it. Just working my way over to the other side. Thought maybe I'll show you guys action shots while I try to talk. It's kind of amazing that I still have the job, but whatever. So as you can see, my little rubber extension here, 3/8 fuel hose, works so nicely for getting spark plugs out. And this works for everything. Boats, cars, motorcycles. And when you're working on gravel, you really don't want to worry about dropping stuff. And the crush washer, it's a little bit crushed, but I'd say the torque in general, these came out a little bit easier maybe than they should have. Here's all 6. Let's go outside in better light and take a look at them. Number 5 looks a little dark. 6 is dark. There's definitely some carbon on there. Now, is it because it was running rich, or is it because it was idling so much? Okay, look at the carbon. I don't know. And then the washers themselves. So number 3 looks properly crushed. Number 1 is pretty crushed. 6 is definitely not. 4 was partially crushed. And 2 was partially crushed. So there are a couple here that weren't very tight. And obviously when you're putting spark plugs in aluminum, that can get dicey, so I get it. But anyhow, we've blown out the junk. We've pulled the spark plugs. Now I'm gonna try to set up my world's crappiest oscilloscope and see what's waiting for us in there. Because I know people are gonna ask. They're gonna ask what kind of boroscope you're using. Wi-Fi, so it has to go to my tablet over here. And I can tell you that after a very short period of time, the built-in battery in this thing croaked. Looks like it might be a AA sized. But rather than try to replace that, you guys, if you watch the channel at all, I've got a drone. This is the power supply for my Air 2S. And I've got a USB adapter hooked up to that with a USB-A on that end. And then I've got a micro USB on this end so that hopefully I can use the huge drone battery to power this cheesy oscilloscope or boroscope and see what we have in there. So funny thing about boroscopes, they don't actually record sound, but let me tell you what we're looking for. We're going in, we're looking at the cylinder, we're looking down at the bottom to make sure there's no rust, no debris, not full of liquid. And thank goodness everything looks good. So the cylinders look great. All that junk on the piston and above the combustion area, that's all carbon and deposits. That's totally normal. Okay, that works surprisingly well with the drone battery. Again, the trickiest part when you're using a boroscope is mainly just figuring out which way's up. I mean, bottom line, things were pretty clean in there. It's not too bad. It was getting way too much fuel. How did it get too much fuel? I don't know. It could have been a blocked air filter, which I haven't gotten that far. That's under the tank here. It could be just riding with the choke on too much and letting it idle too much. Could be just riding it cold all the time, never warming it up. or one of the carburetors is running a little too rich, or some of them, or all of them. So far, this is good news. At least it means I'm not pulling the heads off today. Next thing is I'm going to give it a nice little bath of fogging oil and air and kind of blast it in there just to get everything really well lubricated, because most of that liquid that's in there, I presume, is still gasoline. Smells like it. We want to displace that as much as we can with the oil. Why do I have an old cooler? Actually found this at the dumpster. Here on the island, we upcycle a lot. This makes a great seat for an old man and puts me just at the right height. All right, so I've set the compressor to about 50 PSI. I'm gonna hop on my upcycled cooler here. Then really all I do is I spray fogging oil and compressed air at the same time to kind of try to make a little mess in there and get it a little bit everywhere. And the way I can tell if I'm successful or not is it starts kind of spitting fogging oil out. Everybody makes fun of the way I say out, so out. Same thing for all 6. And same thing on the other side. All right. And I managed to only squirt oil in my glasses the last time. Okay, so now what? Well, next thing, I'm going to let that junk sit in there for a little while, and I'm going to slow roll installing the battery. What I'm going to do next, I'm letting that juice just soak on in there. In the meantime, I'm going to pull off this access cover, which will get me access to the crankshaft. The crankshaft is what holds all the connecting rods together, as well as drives these timing belts up in the front. The reason I'm going to do that is because I want to take it easy with this thing. Everything looks really good, but I want to go ahead and let that juice soak in there. And in the meantime, I'm going to pull that cover and start to turn it manually and just get a feel for it and see how things feel. Just taking it easy on you guys with a little bit of a time lapse. Let us know what you think of this in the comment if you like it. So there you go. There's what it looks like when you pull it off. I do have to say it's kind of cool. It's got an O-ring. Wasn't expecting that. Has a timing mark. Wasn't expecting that. I was stuck on there a little bit, but not too bad. But the other thing I wasn't expecting, Japanese motorcycle, right? Yeah, this baby's metal and chrome. So it's getting a little easier to figure out why these cost so much. They could have easily made that out of plastic with chrome on it and gotten away with it. Anyway, now I'm going to figure out what size that socket is and see if I've got the right size socket to manually bar this over. Plus, I got to look in the manual and figure out what direction does this turn, because I don't want to turn it the wrong way. Anyway, nothing's clunky. It's turning very nicely. Feels just like it should. It sounds right too. I don't know if you can hear it. Sounds like a big 6-cylinder air pump, all right. I would categorize this as some good news. Are the carburetors any good? We have no idea. But at least we know that the block itself is decent, and I don't hear anything rattling, so no connecting rods, no connecting rod issues that I can feel anyway, and no crank rod issues that I can feel. And the cams aren't doing anything weird, although they're belt drives, so they're nice and quiet. So I think next is I'm going to put on the inspection cover. I'm going to clean up those plugs. All right, well, this is some good news. The way I see it, the crankshaft feels good. The connecting rods don't feel weird. The pistons aren't making any weird noises, and the rings aren't, clattering around. Nothing weird from the cams. Now, granted, they're belt drive, so, I think what I'm going to do next is I'm going to drop the battery in here, and I'm going to crank this thing over enough so that we can get all that fogging oil moving around. But also, you don't like to take any chances with too much oil in the engine. Want to make sure to kick that stuff out. Yeah, from there, we're still in diagnostic mode. I want to use the original spark plugs, so those are going to take a little bit of cleaning. I'm not going to use them long term, but I'm going to use diesel oil, Shell Rotella, I think it's T4. Yeah, I'm going to use Shell Rotella T4 to flush all this junk out of here. But I can't really do much more with the engine until I get that slave for the clutch replaced, because there's no clutch. And I'll get that all taken care of. And then, because if we have to pull carburetors, that's a pretty invasive process. Got to pull the gas tank, got to take off an engine mount, things like that. So I am going to get to work and see if I can button it up and see if it turns over by the starter. Today's life cheat code. When you're installing a motorcycle, ATV, snow machine, small, whatever battery, these always have nuts that always fall to the bottom of the cage here. and they're always hard to reach once you've got a cable up in here. So what I do, see this? I take an old earplug. Yeah, it doesn't matter if it's used or not because it's never going back. Cut it in half, put it in there, and that shoves the nut right up there. And that way, when you put it together, piece of cake. And I'll show you that in a second. Now, does the earplug hack work well enough that I can do it holding a camera phone in one hand and put it together in the other? Well, there's only one way to find out. So go ahead and take the screw. I'll only start with the positive side because this is a negative ground situation, so just go ahead and put it right there. Get it started by hand. I think I can do it one-handed. Now tell me that's not the easiest motorcycle, ATV, UTV, whatever cable install you've ever seen. Like I said, it doesn't even have to be a new earplug. You can do it with one used one and just cut it in half. Let's see if I can do a follow-up here. So go ahead and take the screw, put it in the negative cable, glance up to make sure everything's off, which I know it is. Which, by the way, I've never done anything electrically with this bike. Like, I have no idea if anything works. Look at that. Boom. One-handed UTV, ATV. Wow, I should charge for this. That is the ultimate man life hack. Because if you've ever screwed around trying to get that nut in the back, you know it stinks. There you go. Now, does the earplug hack work well enough that I can do it holding a camera phone in one hand and put it together in the other? Well, there's only one way to find out. So go ahead and take the screw. I'll only start with the positive side because this is a negative ground situation, so just go ahead and put it right there. Get it started by hand. I think I can do it one-handed. Now tell me that's not the easiest motorcycle, ATV, UTV, whatever cable install you've ever seen. Like I said, it doesn't even have to be a new earplug. You can do it with one used one and just cut it in half. Let's see if I can do a follow-up here. So go ahead and take the screw, put it in the negative cable, glance up to make sure everything's off, which I know it is. Which, by the way, I've never done anything electrically with this bike. Like, I have no idea if anything works. Look at that. Boom. One-handed UTV, ATV. Wow, I should charge for this. The ultimate man life hack. Because if you've ever screwed around trying to get that nut in the back, you know it stinks. There you go. Well, here goes nothing. Eek. Nothing. That might be because the ignition's off. So let's try turning the ignition on, see what happens. All right. This last thing to check's the high beam. Hey, it looks like the driving lights stay on with the high beam. Wow, it's warm up here. Those are some powerful lights. I'm guessing they're halogen. All right. Okay. So I'd say everything I did today was a success. I'm going to throw those spark plugs back in just because I don't want the cylinders to be open. I'm not going to tighten them down or anything because I still have carburetor testing to do, which I think is going to be the next thing. So that could get messy, and that'll be another video. Sorry to disappoint if you wanted to see bus stuff. I'm disappointed because I'm not doing bus stuff right now, but you know, that's how it works.
No, when life gives you shit, you make Kool-Aid.
Going to be working on the motorcycle over the winter. We are going to be buttoning up the bus actually in 3 or 4 days. We're taking the ferry over to the mainland, and then we're going to take care of that. Again, really appreciate you watching, and sorry we had to take some time off, but like I said, life happens. But no matter what happens, remember, be kind. A smart man would figure out how to get this thing to switch back and forth, but I can't. I can take a picture, I think. But needless to say, I haven't been able to take a whole lot of leave. You know, life happens. You got to pay the bills. And shooting Wander Lodge videos doesn't pay the bills. Ahoy there, Larry Hagan, Kodiak, Alaska. Today we're out here in... Where am I? That, I'm not very entertaining. And... Okay. Nope. But it's not coming out of the hose very easy. See, that's just proof of concept that the hose works. There you go. Ahoy there, Larry Hagan. Okay, step 2 is a little embarrassing. I don't have... Ahoy there, Larry Hagan, Rusty, here in Kodiak, Alaska. Actually, I'm in Fairbanks. No, I'm not. And I know I need to try to not be funny. You know, just keep it serious and like teach people stuff. But boy, that's tough. Because in real life, I don't take things that seriously. Yeah, there's no way to flip it. Darn it. Okay, tonight. Okay, tonight's. Ahoy there. It's time to go on, do good things. Remember, be kind.